Welcome, everybody, to the Bassfug Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Sylvie Gabrielle, a.k.a. Sylvetje, from London. Thank you so much for your time today, Sylvie. I totally appreciate it.
Thank you, Will, for interviewing me. I'm very, very happy.
No problem. Well, you have an interesting story. Bassfug has ninjas that we send out to sort of do some reconnaissance, and then there's a strong vetting process. And you have a very interesting story, and I really like that you have sort of, I don't want to say metaphysical, but you seem to understand that music is a good way to communicate that transcends language. Right off the top, let's just talk about the connective power of music. I'm really interested in this, and I want you to go in great detail about how you feel about this. And then we could go into the other questions after.
Okay, so, I started DJing in 2016, having listened to music all of my life, and I grew up in Belgium, which is a bit the land of techno, and where I listened from very early on into the progressive sound. So I've been into music for a very, very long time. But when I started DJing, I really realized that I was gathering people that were, I don't know, vibrating on the same frequency as I did. All the people that kind of liked my music, and I have very early fans that are still fans today. These are people that I tend to now have a personal relationship with, because they come to my gigs, they follow my Instagram account, my stories, they're jumping on when I release a new mix. They're there, they like it, they love it. And then sometimes I meet them, and I had a few people that I met completely randomly in different places. And these are people that I call it tribe members, these are people that are just like me. I always felt a bit before that I was a bit, not on the side of but I always felt a bit like different from the other people, because I was just living the life that my parents wanted me to live, and I studied, and I did all the things they expected from me. And since I'm into music, and since I party a little bit more, and since I just hang out with people that listen to my music, they are my friends. So there is an incredible the music, the style of music that I bring attracts people that are thinking like me, that are like-minded, that are liking the same things, that are talking about the same DJs that they really love, and it's quite amazing. And that's where I started calling them my sonic soulmates, because there is this real connection, and I heard that when you are, when you're talking energy, when you go into quantum theory and stuff like that, they say that everybody's vibrating on a certain energy level, on a certain frequency. And I'm convinced that the people that are really digging my music, that they are just vibrating on the same energy level as I do. So it's I don't know. I should be able to go into more the scientific aspect of this, but this is just a feeling. And there's moments when I play, especially when you play a long set. In the beginning, people come in and they're chatting and they're happy, and you feel that there's a certain energy flowing in the room, and it's getting higher and higher. And sometimes I really feel like there's an energy sweeping in the room, and then it's enough to put one track that's a bit, that kind of, I don't know, does something. And sometimes I go a little bit more commercial, not really commercial, because that's not the music I bring. But then all of a sudden you have them around my mixing table. They're all of a sudden all with me, all together, all living the moment, all being fully present, and there's a loving energy, there's this feeling of being together, being in the moment, and celebrating life all together. And that's what really, really, really makes me very happy. I call it a high. I get properly, I think I have an endorphin rush
Well, I think it is.
moment.
Sylvie, when you're explaining that to me, I'm feeling two different things. I'm feeling sort of amazement, but I'm also feeling very sad because that's been taken away from us because of this pandemic. I'm curious, can you talk about how COVID and the pandemic has affected you, since you can't really make those connections? You can still do it online digitally. I think artists they're streaming and they're doing digital shows, which is fine, better than nothing. But nothing is better than going, if you're on a beach.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. And I started doing these, when the first lockdown happened, which was in March here in London. And I was, it's interesting because I was with my energy alone. I get a lot of energy out of the tracks I'm playing, but I really realized at that point that I thought it was, first of all, a big ego trip because I'm just standing on my own behind my mixing table in front of my phone, my selfie stick and the phone. And I was really, for the first time, I was very excited. And after half an hour, I was like losing my energy. I was like becoming, I don't know. I really realized that playing music is a community thing, is something that we make together. These evenings that are really becoming when everybody like woo at the end, and where you feel like a really big energy rush.
Yeah.
You don't have that on your own. You just don't have it. And even when I play mixes that I put on SoundCloud, it's not the same. Because in the end, when you have people that are reacting on a track that you play and you feel that they are really liking it, you feel it in the way they react, you then go on that route. Or if sometimes I like to go heavy, and sometimes I feel when I go too heavy that people are not really wanting it anymore, so then I go lighter again. So that's this kind of giving and taking, this kind of energy flow where you receive and you give, and that's completely lost with the live streams. And I actually stopped it.
Oh wow.
And I only have one DJ that managed to give me a big rush of good feelings, and it's somebody I really like. It's iMusic. But that's the only one that managed to get a little bit of a good feeling by live streaming.
It's kind of interesting to hear you talk about this, because you're talking about feelings and you're talking about a lot of sort of emotional aspects. And I think a lot of artists, DJs, producers, what have you, I think they, people will go on YouTube and they'll look at tutorials and they'll try to be the master of this and that. But I think when you're able to channel your own emotions and be able to empathize with other life forms, I think your music and what you do benefits way more than, record box tutorial, or if you're using a $10,000 mixer or a $20 mixer. And when you're talking about I don't even think that a DJ needs to be good technically, Yeah.
I think music is all, for me, music has been the whole of my life about emotions, about, it allows me to feel, I have days where I feel a little bit more sad, and then I go for much more slower music and a lot of instruments and a lot of melodies, when I'm in a very good mood, it's heavy basses, but it allows you to feel.
Yeah.
It's a way of expressing your emotions. I even have a lot of DJ friends and especially producer friends that are very close people, and then they produce these incredibly haunting, incredibly soul-touching melodies, and then I'm thinking it's their way of
communicating,
of feeling,
yeah.
Of really getting in touch with their own emotions.
It's funny that you say that. I don't want to get too personal, but for a year I saw a therapist, and we were talking about my music, and she told me straight up, she says, you use your music as a vehicle to express yourself because you suck at expressing yourself. That's what she told me.
Yeah.
And and I realized that music was more important for me, not because I wanted to become the next Deadmau5 or whatever, but because just as an article of expression, that I rely on that.
Yeah, yeah, but she's very right. There's music is used as a therapy. For people with Alzheimer, for people who are depressed, it can lift your mood. It's a very strong medium.
Mm.
And I even listen to binaural beats when I'm stressed, for example, because I know it has an impact on my. It makes me calmer, and I start breathing again, and it's very powerful, music, and I think it has been very powerful since the early ages. There's always been music accompanying our lives
Yeah.
and gathering people again.
Mm. Do you, with the pandemic and the
Um,
COVID, how do you think we're going to get out of this as musicians and as artists? Do you think it's ever going to go back to normal? How are you coping with it?
I'm very afraid. I'm very afraid because I know. Well, I'm just salivating to go and dance again, just to go in a night and be immersed with music and having smiley faces and being in the moment. I can't wait. Is it going to come back? And the music industry is already since the arrival of MySpace and musicians are not really good money anymore. And I think this COVID for the event industry and for musicians,
Yeah.
it's about being creative here. And again, the connective aspect of the music and the sharing of music with people is lost, and it will come back eventually. But patience is the message, huh?
Yeah, totally. I sort of feel
I
the
have
same
loads
way.
of friends who try to go to places where COVID is less, and it's a bit of a. I'm just waiting. I'm sitting it out. I'm sitting it out. I hope it will come back. It will come back stronger than ever, because people really miss it. And you have interesting stuff happening. Again, it's about creativity. There's this. I'm living near to Notting Hill, and there's this Notting Hill fish shop that put a DJ who's quite known here, Fat Tony, in it, and it's been people have posted it everywhere because all of a sudden the fish shop became a place to hang out, became a place there was music. And then I had friends saying to me, you have to go to the fish shop. I realized how much I miss music.
Hmm.
So I think it's about finding a way now to share your music in unusual places. And I've been dreaming about going to the park. I live very near to Hyde Park,
Hmm.
and I was just thinking, if I could bring my mixing table and have the okay of the police people, and being all at 2 meters, and just with a silent disco, not to bother people who are not into music, but just get together again. We are missing that. We're all. I think even this COVID is giving a lot of problems mentally. It's a
Yeah.
lot of mental issues.
I think
Um,
when I hear you say that, I'm kind of picturing like I remember in the 90s you'd have the warehouse raves and that the police would break up. I think there's going to be legal raves again, but for different reasons, because I think people are just going to snap and they're going to say, I have to have human interaction.
well, there's still very much illegal parties going on,
Mm.
and I am very conscious about the health issue here, and I think I have my role to play in giving the good example. But there's a lot of people out there that also, because of surviving financially, initially didn't want to do underground raves and turned into underground raves, and actually feel okay about it. They're young, obviously, and
Mm.
they're not at risk too much of dying of this thing.
Mm.
But they say, you know what, we're taking care of our tribe by bringing them the music they need, and we're actually probably taking care of their mental health more, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about your first music memories and how you sort of started to, I guess, connect with the power of music, I'll say.
Oh, I think, I don't know. My earliest memories are having cassettes,
Yeah.
and I generally, and I still have that now. I listen to a song, and sometimes really I'm like in love. I'm like, I have to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
time. And I remember my father or my grandfather driving me around and bringing me to the next tennis court where I had a match to play. And so I arrived with my cassettes, and sometimes I had a cassette with like side A and side B, sorry, with the same track, you know. Music. I mean, I was a child of the 80s, huh? So I lived with the big ones like Madonna and Prince and David Bowie and stuff like that. But then I liked already the Zasha and the Paul Oakenfold and the Tiesto, who were like the pioneers of Pink Floyd, the pioneers of electronic music. And God, but, you know, music for me has been a loyal companion in all of my moments, good moments, sad moments, excited moments, you know, and I can't imagine a day without. It's part of my life. It's music is life, you know.
When did you decide to make the jump to be to participate more in the scene, from going from just a casual listener, well, I won't say casual, but a fan, to someone who's actually DJing? How did that happen, and who taught you? How did you learn?
Well, I have my sister who was very big on vinyl when she was younger, and I have two cousins on the two sides of my family they were party people, and they loved their music. So I had, for me, because I was doing serious things, I did my studies at university, and then I started my own clothing business. I was there, the music was just my companion, and then I had a little down in 2013 where I continued producing my clothing, and but I downsized my big business. And then I thought, it's quite funny because I saw this thing on Facebook about people dying and telling their regrets, and they always said very often, I wish I didn't work as much, and I wish I did all the things that I always wanted to do, and I never came to do it. And I had a list of those things, you know, and for me it was that, and it was learning to meditate. It was doing much more, working out much more, and it was music, and so I just did a DJ course, of course, with a huge Spotify list already of music I loved, and then I just had a way of stringing all these beautiful tracks together, and I started making mixes, and it just, you know, as soon as I did that, I thought, you know, all the rest, I don't care anymore. I just don't care anymore. I want to play my music. And that was then, I was then a living room DJ, right? So playing my mixes and then just posting them on SoundCloud, because that's where we can post them. And then from one thing came another, and then I started to play outside, and man, that was amazing, because all of a sudden you have people asking you, what's that track, and I remember that from that time, and this is great, and this is quite Ibiza sounding, and you know, and then I thought, this is what really rocks my boat. So for me now, it's just I want to do that for the rest of my life.
I know for me, it's when you say when you're getting that feedback from a crowd, if I'm in front of a crowd, and even if you make a joke and you hear 40 or 50 people laugh, it's like, holy crap, nothing gets that feeling.
Nothing,
you know, nothing.
It's that. No.
Let's
because you're together in the same thing.
Yeah. Let's jump to Ibiza. This is kind of a silly question, but I wanted to ask you this because being in part of electronic music, I see this famous island come up a lot, and I know what it is, and I know that it's sort of the mecca, I guess, to say for DJs. But can you explain what Ibiza is? And maybe, I know there's other Spanish islands that are also frequented by the DJs. Can you explain that whole culture, what it is, why this island and why not another island? You know, what is so special about Ibiza, and maybe go into the history of what you know about it?
Well, Ibiza is weirdly enough an island that from the 50s already attracted the hedonistic crowd, the creative crowd. And it's an island that's second energy wise after the Triangle of Bermuda. So Es Vedra, which are two little uh, rock islands of Ibiza. There's a very high energy coming from that place. There's a lot of, they say that when you go with the boat there, that your
Get lost or something.
compass
Yeah.
goes completely crazy, like doesn't know anywhere. A lot of boats like went into the cliffs because they were lost.
Uh-oh.
They say that there were sirens that called them and whatever. There's a lot of legends talking about it. But what I know is the first time I went to Ibiza, and that's a very long time ago, like 25 years ago. I don't know. I arrived there. I was not tired anymore. I felt like partying. I felt like all the people that were there were so interesting. They were they were tribe members. I felt like, this island is full of people like me, you know. And the music, there's this, me and my music. I try to find happiness. I try to find a happy state, and all the Balearic music is happy, is about enjoying life, is about enjoying the moment, is about the good life. It's hedonistic.
Yeah.
And so from very early on, there was music. There's a lot of meditators there. There's a lot of healing going on. It's a very special island. And I mean, music wise, for me, it's funny because when I went, Shazam didn't exist at that time, but I remember thinking, I need to remember this track. I went to ask, what is this track? And then going back, being more involved in music, I thought, wow, they playing the music I like. This track I have.
Yeah.
And now actually when I go, they're playing my music. So it's just, what for me, it's my island. I want to go live there. I wanna spend my life there. And it's not only the music, it's the people, it's the nature, it's this very equal temperature, because it's, most of the places during the day it's hot, and then at night you need like a jumper or you need something.
Yeah.
There, oh, you don't need that. So it's this place where you can party. Well, where you could, because that's now part of the past.
Yeah.
But where you could party day and night for days on a row. I had my best moments with my friends as well, because it's so strong. And I don't know. I'm in love with Ibiza. It's the best island ever.
I think the listeners are booking tickets for after COVID. That's the first place they're going to go to now.
They're going in lockdown now, because otherwise I would have been there. But yeah, it's a place to, if you like your music, if you like energy, if you like people that love to just live life in a good way, and to enjoy the moment, that's the place to go. You'll find like-minded tribe members.
Speaking about that, I want to kind of talk about networking and getting gigs. Say someone who's in your position from 2004 who wants to get started, is kind of an outsider. How do they start? How do they get shows? How do they network with other DJs and promoters? Do you have any advice or any tips for that person?
I think the first thing you need to get somewhere with your music is passion. If you're passionate about your music, you're not seeking for validation of the other people, because you get so much out of the music yourself. I think you then bring that to the people. When I play my music, I'm fully, thoroughly, all the tracks that I play are tracks that I listen to 10, 15, 20 times. And after 20 times, I'm thinking, this track I really love. And so when I then play it, I'm still really enjoying that track. And I think you kind of give that to the people. And even people that are not. I remember one of the first times I played in the Nobu restaurants, there was this girl who came to me who was working for Nobu, and she said, it's funny, she said, I don't really, I'm not into your music really, it's not something I listen to at home or anything, but she said, when you're playing it here for 4 or 5 hours, I come out here happy. And I thought, this is probably one of the best compliments I could have.
Yeah.
because she feels what I feel. I manage to give to the people what I feel in the music. And as long as I'm passionate about it, you bring it. You give that message. So that's one thing, passion. And then of course it's about being out there. Huh? It's knowing the right people. But networking is in every business really. Huh? It's
Yeah.
very, very important. Uh,
Yeah.
and then it's about giving and taking, because you can be good, but a lot of DJs out there are very egoistic and are just about their music, and they're not listening to nobody else, and they're not supporting friends.
Yeah.
For me, it's just a family. No,
Yeah.
but it is.
Yeah.
It- all the DJ friends I have are people, I love their music. I think they love my music. And when they bring something out, I listen to it because I know I will like a few tracks. And then when I think it's good, I repost,
It goes back to
And
your
and
idea
it's
of the
that
tribe. The idea of the
yes,
tribe.
because
Yeah.
it's giving and taking in everything. We're all in this. We're all humans, huh? We're all, and if we all the part of the humans that like the music, and you find like-minded people and who listen to the same music, one day you will maybe play together.
Yeah.
I have a friend who I play music with in Bristol a lot, in Bristol, in Brighton. Well, not now, but before and and after COVID, I hope. We discovered each other on SoundCloud, and I saw him starting to meticulously listen to every mix, and then give comments on certain tracks that I really like, of course. And then, because I was intrigued, I started listening to his mixes, and we had a lot of mixes, a lot of music in common. And then we started talking, and then one day we played together. I said, "Come over," because I had kind of a trust that it was somebody that was going to be a friend. And he is a friend. And we organize parties together. It's giving and taking. And I think it's with everything in life.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. It's you find like-minded people. It's not about so much finding the best promoter in the world. It's just sort of like you said with the energies, finding people with the same energy, and together
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
create things.
And I remember, one of my worst moments was one of the first gigs I had, which was a friend of mine who believed in me and who has a workspace, and he said, "Come and play your music in my workspace." And I played my music for 20 minutes, and then I had people coming up to me and asking me to play tracks that I didn't know, and artists that I didn't know.
Mm.
And after half an hour, 40 minutes, they asked me to stop. And they then plugged their phone into Spotify, and they started playing their hip hop.
Yeah.
And they started off their party. And that was a very, very tough moment for me because, well, first of all, they didn't like what I was bringing.
Yeah.
And then, and I stayed for a bit, and then I dropped off because, I was like really not, my music was not liked. And it was a huge lesson because in the end, you can't please everybody. It was clearly the wrong crowd for me,
Yeah.
the wrong crowd for my music. And their music was great, but for what they like.
Mm.
And now when I play my music, I'm always thinking, you know what, Sylvie, you're playing the music you love. You play the music in places you think people that like your music will come to. And that's it. It's just finding your tribe. There's always people who won't like what you do.
Yeah.
And so if you're passionate enough, you're believing in yourself, you're networking, you're doing all that, and you don't start to doubt your music and what you bring, then I think you have the solution of being successful.
Or what people think about you, And
Yes.
and I'll see a lot of artists that, there's a new trend next week and they start making that type of music, and then there's a new trend the week after and they start making that type of music. And what happens is if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, as they say.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
as a creative person, artistic person, DJs, producers, it hurts if you're constantly trying to get validation from everybody.
Yeah.
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 Let's talk about, because you're talking about playing live and this happened to you. What are some tips for practicing for shows? What do you do? Do you do any practice, or is it just second nature for you now? I probably assume it's that now.
Well, I'm this person who loves to prepare and who loves to kind of feel in control. I'm a bit control freak at some point. And of course, my mixes that are prepared are going well. But if you know your music in and out, if the tracks that you're playing, you don't have them just downloaded from Beatport or iTunes 5 minutes before. If you really thoroughly know your tracks, the best way is to go on the flow. I love starting with one track and then, whatever happens will happen. It will be good. If you know your tracks, going with the flow gives you the gives you the potential to really feel the mood, flow with the mood, and kind of bring a journey. And you can start quite slow, and then when you feel that all of a sudden this energy is sweeping, you can go up, and then you feel maybe they need a bit of but you're going on for a while, you go a little bit slower. It's up and down. The unprepared mixes I did, and unprepared, I mean, I have my list of tracks that I've prepared beforehand, and it's the latest ones, and it's the ones that really rock my boat. But with that selection of tracks, 150 for a 4-hour set, I will be happy to just go with the flow. And I think that's the best.
How do you recognize that flow? I could tell already speaking with you, it's quite evident that you're quite in tune with feelings, emotion, and sort of energy. How to someone who isn't connected like that, how can you recognize if the energy of a room? Do you know what I mean?
But you feel it. If you're fully present, if you're not thinking, do they like this, do they not like this, if you're already, a lot of people tell me that it's about my energy as well, because I'm so happy behind my desk. I have this big, in French you say j'ai la banane, I have the banana, the laughing face. You kind of already show that you're fully there. It comes. It's about just I don't know how to explain. It's just about finding happiness yourself and then being able to transmit that happiness. And for that you need to be fully sure about what you're doing. And you can only be fully sure about your doing is when you really know your music, and when you really know what's coming, the energy in the tracks. So I would, to somebody that starts, just know your music, love your music, and smile. Yeah, show that it's what you're fully behind. You're fully enjoying.
Yeah,
and practicing, playing a lot. At the end, the more you play, the better.
Yeah, I think that's a lot for not even just playing live, even just hosting a podcast. Like if you aren't fully engaged with the conversation, then it's never going to work out, And no. I've learned that doing this and also playing live. I wish there was a way to teach people that may not be emotionally connected how to do that, and I think it takes a lot of work for people, like the computer programmer types, engineer types. I wish there was an easy way for people to get connected that isn't doing mushrooms or acid or something like that,
Yeah, no. I think there's two types of DJs as well, as you're touching upon producers. I consider myself I'm not producing. I'm learning to. I'm trying to work through Ableton and everything, but I think you're either a DJ or you're a producer, and produce people are more. They love to be on their own in their dark. Well, that's a bit of a cliche. in their true. Room, just playing around. I can't do that. I need and even I my dream is to make a track, but I would probably need 2, 3, 4 friends with whom I spend a whole week somewhere inside in a dark
Yeah.
room, just to get there, because for me, DJing is all about sharing. It's really about sharing my music, and producing. I think it's more a loner trip.
Yeah.
But of course, you have then the very good DJs that produce and then bring it. Well, those I'm in awe with those, and you have a few, but that's already, for me, that's multi-skilled DJs. Generally, you have the category DJ and the category producer. I find.
Sylvie, we're getting close to the end of the interview. Once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I just want to ask sort of the generic question that I'm sure you get asked a lot. Vinyl, CDJs, laptops, what is your preferred method for getting the music out there and playing?
Well, I love CDJs for the simple reason that I love my filters. I love all the loops and all the little. It's when you're a vinyl DJ, your main preoccupancy is to beat match. It's to make sure that the track is exactly on the same. You bring it in at exactly the right moment and everything. When you're working with CDJs, it's not about that anymore. It's so easy now. You can even put the sync button on. I mean, it's so easy. So it's about being able to do something with your music without and using the technology, But that's a personal thing, huh? But also for me, just to go to a gig with my headset and my keys, it's so much easier than to have to drag all those vinyl with you.
Yeah.
But then I love people who play with vinyl. I think it's a personal preference. But if you can have it all, if you can play your vinyl and then you can play with your CDJs, the sky's the limit. But technology today, I mean, we humans are incredibly performant in bringing technology higher and higher. Why not use it?
Yeah. It's funny because with the vinyl for a while, you go, why would you use vinyl? Why wouldn't you use a record box? Lately, I've been collecting CDs again, and I bought a nice 5-disc CD changer, even though I have a Spotify subscription. But yeah. I realized just the, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the act of putting the CDs in and sitting on my couch and listening to music, it adds this element of fun and an investment.
Very true. And all my friends who are big vinyl DJs, when they come with their vinyls, they're little jewels. You can't even touch them with your fingers. You almost have to wash your hands first, or really only touch in the middle. Not to touch their vinyl. It's nice also to see the artwork, which is a bit lost with CDJs. But again, it's for me the CDJs work because it's so easy. Because it's just it's very straightforward. But I don't think there's a good way, and yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I think the ritual is it's going back to these things that you can't really describe with words. It's the presence of just actually having some type of ritual that you could tell that the person is passionate about. Sylvie, thank you so much for this interview. It was awesome. Is there anything you want to add before we go? Can you tell us where we could find you on social media?
Yes, Sylvetje, which is not an easy word, but Sylvetje on Instagram and on SoundCloud. Actually, SoundCloud is where I post my mixes and where I share my sound.
We'll put it in the show notes too to make sure people have that.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Will. Thank you so much for your time and for asking me these interesting questions.
I appreciate it.
It's nice to be able to talk about my passion.
Take care. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.